Welcome to On Being Female Radio. Today we're going to talk to Lauren via Skype. As you know, if you've been reading our website, Lauren is working with a production company in Kabul in Afghanistan. And we're just going to go right over and ask her what life is like over there right now. Hi Lauren, how's it going?
Great, going very well, thank you.
What's the weather like?
It's very hot. It's hot, but it's not too humid, which is nice.
So what was your first impression of Kabul?
My first impression when I got off the plane was that it was hot and dusty. I mean, you could taste the dust. It was busy. The traffic in this city is unlike anything I've ever seen. With seemingly no traffic laws or rules. It's just like motor mayhem. It's crazy.
This sounds like Boston.
It's a little bit more extreme than Boston, but yeah, I know what you mean.
So what's it like on the NATO base? I mean, it must be a little strange. You're very high security. Do you feel safe?
I feel safe. I mean, I don't know if that's just me forcing myself to accept my lot and not live in fear all the time, or if I actually do think it's fairly safe. I mean, the first lockdown we had on base was pretty scary, just because loud sirens go off and, you know, you're told to run and duck and cover, and it shouts, incoming, incoming, incoming. And you think, oh, incoming from where to where? And that feels scary because you normally feel so protected on the base. So to think that a big rocket might be coming your way is quite unnerving. But out and about, I actually don't feel unsafe. The most unsafe I feel is at the entrance to our base, which I don't really like to hang around very often, which is a shame because there's three lovely girls that sell scarves just at the entrance, and I always like to have a chat with them. But I always feel a little bit edgy there. There's been quite a few attacks at the entrance, so I do feel a bit edgy, but, you know, generally you can't afford to be walking around or driving around in fear all the time. Most of the people that live on this base, military and civilians, a lot of them don't leave the base. They're not allowed to leave the base unless they're going on a convoy. There's a few civilians who are allowed to leave the base, but they have to have trip tickets and permission, and there's only a few safe houses they're allowed to go to. So it's quite unique because we're a media team that we're actually just allowed to come and go as we please. And it's quite funny. A lot of the military guys, you sort of get oohs and ahs when people hear that you go off base without protection and just in a taxi. And you know, but I actually feel a lot safer going out in a taxi wearing a headscarf than I do going in a military convoy wearing body armour and a helmet. You know, you just you feel like a target. But it does make me laugh when you chat to people who don't go off base. It makes you feel really badass because they're like these big jocked up military men and they're really impressed that you're just going out and about on your own.
I know that for the whole of this year, from what I've been reading, civilians and foreigners in particular have definitely become a target in a way that they were not in previous years. And with the US and NATO leaving, it seems like it's ratcheting up, even although the media doesn't report every incident, so it doesn't seem like an awful lot's going on.
The media, the international media, relays even less information than what you get from here. You know, I mean, something happens every single day in Kabul, and in the outer provinces, you know, every morning we get to meet. In this meeting that I have, we are given a run through of all the casualties that have happened in any big events. And you know, you don't forget this is a war zone, but at the same time, you still would have to be very unlucky. You know, you would. You know, that was part of the sort of agreement that I decided to take when I came out here. It is a risk, but you just have to be as careful as you can and just not live in fear.
And I mean, you and I talked about that so that it was clear that it was a risk, and you were openly, consciously choosing to weigh that risk against the excitement and the interest of the job. So you went in there with your eyes wide open. I'm really curious, because up until now, obviously, you grew up between UK and America, and you've never been in a war zone, and you've never been physically under threat. The night you had the lockdown and you didn't know what was going to happen, was it a missile that might have targeted the base? I'd love to know how you reacted to it, and did your reaction surprise you?
It did surprise me, but I think because I've had a kind of crazy year of adventures, and the alarms went off, and I was more excited, and I was more interested in running back to the office and getting my camera kit than I was scared. I did get a little bit frightened when my boss, who's been here for years and years and years, actually started pegging it. At that moment, I had this kind of moment of truth moment where I thought, shit, if she's pegging it to a safety zone, then, you know, she knows her shit. She knows what to be scared of, and she's had a few. She's even had a few on base scares. She came very close to a rocket hitting her, and she jumped in the ditch of the garage. She happened to be by the garage and jumped in the ditch, below where the cars go, and it saved her life basically.
This was on the base that you're on now?
The one I'm on now, yeah.
So a rocket did get in at one point?
Yes, they have had attacks, yes. And I think that, for me, seeing her running definitely kind of put a rocket up my arse, because I think I'd been I was just very excited by the whole thing. But then we got back to the office, which is our safe room. It's one of the safest places you can be. And, people were starting tweeting things and everyone was talking about it. And suddenly you just get a rush of, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to document this. And it was really exciting.
So tell me, what was the most, other than this incident where you were on lockdown on the base, what was the most exciting assignment that you've had so far?
Going in a Black Hawk helicopter was amazing. It's always been on my bucket list to go in a helicopter, and I asked if they could keep the doors open so I could film out the side, and it was just amazing to see Kabul from that perspective and see how green it actually is. I always imagined it to be kind of dry and deserty, and seeing it up above and seeing how lush it is was actually really amazing.
And it must be quite beautiful, aren't there mountains nearby?
It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning.
I want to talk about the people in Kabul. You interviewed a young woman that sings in a band. In fact, she's a hip-hop artist, and that was amazing to me. It's sort of like little island of normality for young people in the middle of this war zone. Tell me about her. Tell me about that experience.
So Paradise Sorori is a hip-hop singer who moved away, as many people did, to flee the war. So she was actually born in Iran and moved back when she was a teenager. She's now 24, and her and her boyfriend have a hip-hop group together. And she's amazing. She's radical in many ways. I mean, firstly because she's the first female rapper in Afghanistan, but moreover because she's so outspoken about her beliefs regarding women's rights, and to be that outspoken in essentially such a dangerous society in that respect anyway, I just think she's very brave.
When we were talking about the number of women in politics and in political office, you had said that there was more women in political office in Afghanistan than there were in America. Maybe they don't have quite as strong a voice yet, but I thought that was kind of interesting, that they're stepping up, and they're stepping up in a place that's quite dangerous to step up.
Yeah, exactly. And the female politicians here, I mean, they are threatened, and generally even women with jobs a lot of the time are considered prostitutes. It's, it is an extreme society, especially in the outer provinces. Kabul is an exception to the rule, essentially.
The shit's going to hit the fan when the US move out and NATO moves out, and then we find out what's going to happen then.
Yeah, I think a perfect example of that is that one of the women that I did an edit for, my colleague had interviewed her, was a female entrepreneur who started a food processing company. And her story is incredible and it's very inspiring, but she wouldn't have been able to do it without US aid. And my concern is that when all the Western money starts drying up, a lot of the initiatives that are empowering women will dry up with it.
What about the internet and technology? Do many women have access to that? I mean, do they know what it's like because of technology, what it's like in other places to feed their expectations of what life could be like?
Certainly now that, a lot of women are going to university, they're studying, they have access to the outer world and to the way women are in the outer world. But, you only even have to look at Kabul in the 70s to realise how different it was, and how they even just have to look back at their own history to have an insight.
I mean, that is so painful to me in my generation. If I think of bringing you up in Kabul, and knowing that I had more freedom and opportunity than you're going to have is very intense for a mother to feel that way.
For me, it's really early days to have a strong opinion about this so far. I mean, you get so many different views of the situation here for women. If you speak to a women's rights activist here, she'll tell you that it's awful and it's so backwards, and women are still being mutilated and they're still burning themselves, which is all true. And then you speak to a woman who has finally been blessed with the privilege of having her own business, even though she had to convince her husband and her husband's family that actually in the Quran there were businesswomen and leaders, and so there's a very different feel to things. I was speaking to a female journalist the other night who felt a bit more cynical about it, and she was saying that she thinks that a lot of women have just learned to say what they think journalists want to hear. So for me personally, to really have a strong opinion, it's definitely too early. I haven't spoken to enough women yet. From my own upbringing and my own liberal viewpoint, I think there's a very, very, very long way to go.
There's a long way to go for women in America and Britain, never mind Afghanistan. So Lauren, thanks so much. This is great. It's so nice just to hang out with you. And I will try extremely hard not to worry about you. So thanks very much and stay safe, my dear.
I will do. What was it you said? Night, night, sleep tight, and don't let the bombs
bite. Bye.
I love